Happy day, everybody. So today we're going to discuss. Oh, hey, Dust. Making your appearance. He's got to make an appearance. He's a big boys. Yeah, just a big boys. Oh, we got to give Dusty loves. Oh, he's a happy boy. Yeah, he's a happy boy. We'll get to the video in just a moment. First, Dusty needs some love. Dusty always needs love. He's a love machine. He gives it, he receives it. He's just You're just a huge love machine, aren't you? Yeah, Jabba boy dada. All right, where were we? Oh yeah, today we're going to talk about how I have planted this entire property out almost entirely for free, and got a few examples of how I do that behind me here with this array of plants that we're going to use for this particular video. Starting with the mulberry. Now, this mulberry here is an absolute beauty. This I saved. I rescued this plant. And I do that a lot with a lot of different plants. I like to rescue plants, but this thing was in very bad condition. It was at a property that I was doing an inspection on because I still have a day job, at least for now. But there was some mulberry trees growing at this house, and this was a seedling, I'm assuming, or it could have been, from some other, could have been from something that fell onto the ground. But I think it was a seedling, based on its size and the depth of the root. It had actually a pretty deep taproot, so I'm assuming this was a seedling. And it had been mowed over several times. It was still struggling to grow. You could tell it had been mowed a few times, but it keeps throwing out shoots trying to survive. And that's a survivor right there. I like plants like that. But he was in a very bad location, and he was probably eventually just going to get killed or whatever because of where he was and the fact that he was just going to continually get mowed or weed whipped or eventually maybe yanked out. Who knows? So I went ahead and harvested him and brought him home, stuck him in a pot, and he wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking good at all for him. Basically, what little leaves he did have completely died off. The little stem that he had coming out turned brown and died. And I was like, well, I tried. I gave it my best. And then about a week later, he started putting on some new leaf growth. And I mean, he's gotten quite big actually. And this is only, a few weeks. But it was like maybe this big. The little stem that was on there was pretty small. And now we've got, what is that? A little over a foot, of growth, a couple of limbs there. So this thing is doing great. So that's one technique, is harvesting plants from the area, just wild plants, whether it's on the side of the road or in somebody's yard. A lot of times if it's somebody that you can just ask them, hey, mind if I snag one of those? Most people, 99% of people who grow plants, will be more than happy to just say, yeah, absolutely. Take, a cutting or a banana or whatever it is, just here you go. They'll give it to you. No big deal. But that's how I got that mulberry. And that's how I get quite a lot of plants. I've probably acquired, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 worth of plants just by harvesting them from either somebody's property or from the wild, just wild areas. Bamboos, mulberries, cannas, figs. I've gotten a wide array of plants just by going out and getting them. So that's one way you can do it. Another way is the way that I get a lot of my cannas cannas and bananas and bamboo, as I do divisions. Divisions is pretty much exactly the way it sounds. You take a plant and it will grow little pups. You know, bananas do this, cannas do this. There's a whole array of plants that throw out runners and little pups that you can break off the mother plant, or you can take a plant and just split it in two, and now you have two plants. That works great with cannas. Cannas do this all the time. They'll throw out little pups, and those pups will grow pretty quick. And I just take my machete, you know, pull it out of the container, or if it's in the ground, just basically split it right down the middle in between the two plants, and you take one one plant and turn it into two. A lot of times with cannas, you can buy them from, you know, like a nursery or Lowe's or whatever, and they'll usually come in a 3 or 4 gallon nursery pot, and there's typically somewhere between 4 and 6 individual canna plants inside that container, and you can just cut those up into single plants. You buy one, and now you've got 5 or 6. So that's an amazing way to extend your plants. You know, make more plants basically for free. I mean, you might have to buy the first one. In a lot of situations, especially with canna, if they're not blooming and they're kind of looking a little haggard, you can get them for dirt cheap. You know, you might get them for a couple of bucks. You know, $3 to $5. You know, you just if you see there's a canna variety that you're really interested in getting, a lot of times if it doesn't look that good or if it's not blooming, you can just say, "Hey, is this price on here? Is this thing looks pretty rough?" You know, kind of really play it up. Like, man, this thing looks terrible. You know, I would try to take it home and see if I can rescue it, but I don't want to pay $15, $20 for this. They're like, "Oh yeah, you know, they'll usually mark it down, mark that son of a gun down to like, you know, $3, maybe $5, something like that." So now you just got 6 more plants, $5. So you can't beat that deal. It's a pretty amazing deal. And the other technique that I use is seed, just grow them from seed. You know, you get. I've done this with pomegranates, guavas, pears. This is a pear seedling. I've done it with apples, peaches, plums, um, probably other things I can't remember right now. But this is a great way to utilize something that, like, you buy a peach or an apple or a pear or a plum or cherries, and you just keep the seeds, you know, propagate the seeds. And that's a really good way to get certain varieties of fruit trees. You can get a ton of them for practically free. And two of the plants, three actually, that you can do this with and get a ton of plants are guavas, uh, pomegranates, and passion fruit. Those things, you just buy like one pomegranate, and there's probably well over 100 seeds in that one pomegranate. And they grow really easy. Pomegranates are insanely easy to grow. You just pot up those seeds, and you'll have more plants than you'll know what to do with. Trust me on that. I've done it. It's awesome. Um, so yeah, that's seed growing is another really great way to get a lot of free plants, especially with stuff that you're already going to get anyway. You know, you might already have a bag of plums sitting in the fridge. You know, you just eat the plum, save the seed. Now there's some techniques involved in propagating things from seed. Certain things from seed need to be stratified, so you got to look into how to do that. But it's pretty easy. It's not difficult. And I might make a future video just showing my process on how I stratify my seeds. But that's not for this video. But anyway, the next way is how I did this butte right here. Ain't she a butte, Clark? Let me tell you what, right there, that's a beautiful fig. Now, this is from a cutting. And this is how I get 100% of all of my figs and all of my mulberries are from cuttings. And I've got tons of them growing out here. I'm going to have a ton more growing out here because I just keep making more cuttings. Uh, and once you have one plant, you can make an endless supply of plants from figs and mulberries. Super easy to propagate, like crazy easy. Mulberries are probably the easiest to propagate from a cutting. Figs are right in line with that. They're super easy as well. But you get one plant, one mulberry, and one fig, and now you can have literally an endless supply. Because once you get one going, take some cuttings from that. All of those cuttings, hopefully you'll get a few that survive. You might lose a few, but that's okay. But you get a few more plants, and now those plants, you can harvest cuttings from those as well. So it just keeps compounding on itself and getting more and more and more. And so that's how I've gotten all of these plants and all of the plants that I have planted on my property. I would say probably 98% of everything I've got planted out here was for free, essentially. I mean, there is some cost involved, right? Like, so if you don't have containers, like you need some nursery containers, nursery pots, you might have to spend a little money on those. Sometimes you can get those for free, though. There's a lot of people who will throw these away, um, especially certain times of the year, uh, like Mother's Day. A lot of people will buy plants for their mother on Mother's Day, and they just will end up on the roadside or in the garbage. That's one way to get free containers. Asking people, that's another way. And a lot of times, even nurseries will, um, sometimes they'll give old containers away, like old nursery pots that they're not using anymore. Sometimes they'll give them away, but sometimes they'll basically be giving them away. They'll sell them for like maybe a quarter a piece or 50 cents. So you can get a whole mess of containers for either free or very inexpensively. But that is one thing that you'll have to take into consideration, especially if you want to propagate a lot of plants. You're going to need a lot of containers. That's just the way it is. And then obviously potting soil. Potting soil can be a little bit of an expense if you're not making it yourself. If you're just buying like bagged potting soil, then that's going to cost you a little bit of money. Um, with the propagating, see my other videos with the sand, using sand base as a propagation for the cuttings, that's going to save you a ton of money. I mean, eventually you're going to have to up pot them into containers with some sort of potting soil or compost. But depending on how you get your potting soil, if you make it yourself, you can usually save a ton of money. Using like coconut coir and maybe worm castings, and then just using what's that stuff called? Perlite. Mix in a little perlite. Like you can buy the components to make potting soil, make it yourself, get a lot more of it for a whole lot less money. But you can also just buy the bags, right? You can just buy a bag of potting soil, but that's gonna up the price a bit. And but you can do it. It's not a big deal, but there is some cost involved in that. And if you're trying to get started with certain plants, um, like say bananas, for instance, you're looking for a particular variety of banana, you might have to buy the first one. But once you buy one, you never need to buy it again because once you put that thing in the ground, it's going to be throwing out pups basically forever. It's never going to end. It's going to keep producing plants for you uh, until it like gets hit by a meteor or something. But aside from that, you're just going to have plants coming to you for free forever. All you got to do is just go out and harvest them. So that's how I've gotten all of my bananas out here. I bought 3 bananas. Um, one was a Cavendish, one was a dwarf Cavendish, and the other one that I bought was a blue Java ice cream banana. And those were the only 3 bananas that I have ever purchased and will ever need to purchase. I'm never going to need to buy another, unless it's another variety that I don't have that I want. I might need to buy another banana. But other than that, I just bought like little bananas, like foot and a half tall. They weren't very big, so they weren't very expensive. Like $10, I think, was the most I spent on any of these bananas. And now I just have hundreds of them for free, which is awesome. And down here, not sure if you can see this little guy. This is a persimmon, and that was given to me from a lady that I know, and she has given me some fig cuttings out of her garden, and she's given me um, some plums that I harvested the seeds from after eating the plums. They were delicious. Harvested those seeds, and now I'm propagating those. And then this persimmon she gave to me um, because she has several of them, and I think she grew this one from seed, and it was not looking great. I think that's why she gave it to me. She was like, "Here, you want this?" And I'm like, "What? Oh, yeah." I said, "I don't have any persimmons, and I really want persimmons." Um, it's one of the things that I have a hard time trying to acquire or trying to grow from seed, because a lot of times when you buy a persimmon from the store, it just doesn't have any viable seeds in it. At least in my experience, when I've purchased persimmon, from the store, and I cut it open, there's usually no seeds in it. And I think one time it had like a seed, but it didn't look very good, and I tried to grow it and it didn't work. So I'm struggling trying to figure out how to get persimmons for free, but I'm trying. But this one I did get for free because somebody gave it to me, and it was in terrible shape. The thing looked awful. It was all like light green, like it just looked really unhappy and unhealthy. And yeah, that's okay. I brought it home, and now it looks actually quite nice. So let's see. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll give you a little closer look. Look how it's very green. It's put on probably, I'd say, a foot of growth since I got it, and that's really cool. I like that. That makes me very happy to see this plant's doing so well. And the only thing that I really did to it um, was I put it in a little bit bigger container, uh, and then I just fertilized it a little bit with natural homemade fertilizer. That's it, and it's growing great. It looked pretty terrible for, I'd say, around about 2 to 3 weeks. It was looking pretty rough and struggling. But then after that, after it kind of started to absorb um, some of those nutrients, and it realized it had some room to spread out a little bit, it really started to green up and look looking really healthy. So I'm super excited for this thing. I think I need another one though. I'm pretty sure persimmons are one of those fruits that require a male and a female, or at least two plants in order for them to cross pollinate, to be able to get fruit. So I think that's the case. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I feel like I've heard that somewhere before with persimmon. So eventually, at some point, I'm going to have to find another persimmon. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, but yeah, you know, it'll happen. It'll happen. So I think that's it. I think that's all that I needed to go over with you guys about how I um, basically get all my plants for free. And how you can get all your plants for free too. And if I were to put a dollar amount on all the plants that I've put in the ground out here, and all my food forests, garden beds, whatever you want to call it, that I have planted out, it's probably in the neighborhood of, if I had to guess, just top of my head guess, 30 grand, maybe 35, close to 40. Like you could probably buy like a really nice new Honda Civic for the amount of money that I saved on propagating plants for free out here. So that's pretty cool. And that's it. Sit saw, y'all. And yeah, I'm not really sure what the next video is going to be about, but when I know, you'll know. And let's get Dusty in on the outro. He's napping, but there you go. Now he's up. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be on the outro? Sweet. Love it." Yeah, I love boys. Yeah. Yeah. Look at boys. All right, y'all. Later.